Yeah. Welcome back to the Dream More Stay True channel. It's your boy Moon, back again, here again, episode number 2. I felt like in this episode, I would kind of go back in time and go back into the journey of what kind of got me into wanting to even attempt a marathon. Um, Originally, and I think 2021, it was. Maybe it was 2022. I think it was 2022. That was the first time that I was like, I think in the pandemic, like a lot of people started running. And the only thing I really attempted to do was run a 7-minute mile. And at that time, I was in San Luis Obispo and I had a little studio in the garage. And um, I went out and I like tackled that, just running 1 mile in this big loop. And, it's pandemic, so nobody was like gathering, and it was like a place of like solitude in the studio for me at the time. And I think to kind of like challenge myself. If you don't know, I'm a visual artist, so I paint and I sculpt and I do these different things. So I felt like there was not going to be a possibility of having an art show anytime soon. So I was like, I need some challenges, besides just painting about the pandemic or really questioning where, the world was going. So I ran in circles, and one day I ran a 7-minute mile. Maybe it was like 7:57 or 7:47 or something like that. And then after that, I just kind of like casually jogged and chilled on like running farther distance. So I think 2 years later, I probably gained weight in the pandemic of eating donuts and drinking IPAs and, just horrible sleep and uh, making different transitions to different jobs and trying to understand, all that stress, it equated in not having the healthiest diet at the time. I will say, like, I've always been into intermittent fasting. A lot of time eating 1 meal a day. You might hear Cloudy Brown over there, like, moving around. I'll drop him in the video, too. It's the dog. Yeah, I think living, like, somewhat check to check as, like, an artist, trying not to be a starving artist, but making money in the arts is hard, and it's been hard most of my life, having a bachelor's and a master's degree and being classically trained and working in the art field and running a gallery and doing all these things that, they kind of came along the way, but they don't earn, big funds. So, I was on some ramen noodle diets and things like that. Hey, relax, boy. He just wanted to say hello. But yeah, moving forward, let me jump into this. So there's this race in Culver City that my partner Franny, she lived in, like, I guess Robertson, Beverlywood, that area, and Culver City isn't too far from there here in Los Angeles. So Los Angeles County, but it's basically a race that spawns up around the time of the Oscars. And so there's like a lot of themes, and this past year I've done it 3 years in a row. So this was back in 2022. So I've done it 22, 23, and now 24. And they have different like legends that have came, that have been marathoners and Olympians and things like that. So it's pretty cool. When I first got into it, it was just like one of those couch to 5K situations. That was, just looking here on one of my Instagram posts, that was March 27th, 2022. And yeah, I think I ran a 30-minute 5K, which is crazy to think about at the time. Crazy to think about right now. But I was probably about 230 pounds, I wasn't in the healthiest shape. And throughout this conversation, I'll be dropping in different, photos. The next race I ran, man, when was that? And the whole thing that year, which was funny, in 2022, I told myself I was going to run a sub 25 5K. That did not happen. I thought I was going to keep running. I completely fell off of running. My next race, and I believe we did another race, and it might have been a YMCA race that year. Franny actually beat me at the time, which was kind of crazy, but the course was shorter and all that kind of stuff. It was interesting, but that was still fun. Still got out there. The next race, this is the beginning of what I consider the saga, the myth, the legend of who I am becoming, also the dragon mushroom tree. Um, these different names, like the bear and the dragon, they represent like these very passionate parts of myself. And this first race in 2023, January 21st, was at Crystal Springs in Griffith Park, and it was for a foundation that was geared towards the homeless. And for that race, so pennies for the homeless. Hold on.
Oh my lord! You're a big guy. You're gonna walk today?
No, just watching. I should have walked though. I just didn't know there was walkers. I know, I saw that.
It's your local walk run 5K. And I believe there's oh shit. I'm tired. I'm out of breath. I went on a long run today. Not really. I just did my 4 miles today and I'm a little winded. I'm just a little bit tired today. Oh gosh. And at the time, this is my original watch that I eventually got later that year, which is a Garmin 35, really basic watch. Now I wear a Garmin Forerunner 55. This is a Forerunner as well. They're still pretty basic, but this didn't have a lot of the metrics that I have now. And this is before I even got on Strava and things like that. I was still discovering myself. So this race I ran 28:18, about a 9-minute pace. I took 13:34. But yeah, like I said, this is the first after the year before, the year prior. And at this point, I vowed to myself as also the dragon mushroom tree that I would run 16 5Ks in 1 year. And then I would go sub 25 in one of those races and continue to, build and strengthen my base fitness and threshold and VO2 max, get really strong. The next race to the Greenland 5K for the Oscar weekend. And this time I take 266 out of 911 people. And the first race of the year, I ran a 28. At this point, I ran a 31 minutes. So I went backwards 3 minutes. Some people thought that first course might have been a little short. Like I didn't have Strava and I didn't have my Garmin watch. So I was just going off of what other people were telling me. And I was extremely, bummed out about kind of going backwards. But sometimes that happens in the journey. I was figuring out my diet, figuring out my relationship with being social and drinking and these different type of things when it came to like my running. At this point, my weekly mileage was probably like 8 miles or something like that. I was running 2 miles at a time. I was in the gym, but I hadn't, coming out of the pandemic, just haven't gotten back into that rhythm at this point, so this is the beginning of 2023. The next race I ran, was with High Tide Runs, and they spawn up by the beach in Santa Monica and also in Long Beach, and they put on these kind of like small boutique races that are fairly cheap. These races cost money to enter, unless you're an elite level runner where people are inviting you complimentary. But this place probably charges about $24-$25, and it's really nice, very well produced, bibs and times and photos and all of that stuff. So it's very affordable and very worth it. I recommend anybody here local to Los Angeles to check it out. So I took 12 out of 87. This is my third 5K of the year, and I ran a 29:12, so slightly better than the last race with 9-minute splits. And throughout this, you'll be seeing like the photos of me and Mr. Cloud. He usually takes a photo with me, and me and Franny usually take a selfie after the race, kind of like our tradition, and we get donuts and coffee and kind of start our day and do everything else. So like kind of a productive day and a kind of fun way to start the day. We get up really early in the morning and do these races at 7, 8 in the morning. The next race after that was the fourth race. At this point, it's April 22nd, 2023. El Segundo PTA run for education, and this is one of the bigger races. USATF certified course. Took 210 out of 981. My split time was 29:39. Super hilly course. Really got beat down. It was a little warm outside. Might have started around 8:30. But yeah, the hills were just destroying me. I was just breaking that entire time. And I want to say Frenny was out of town that time, so Clyde wasn't with me. It was just me. But I believe I took a photo with him. Yeah, number 5, was for Amar Aubrey. The foundation his mother put together, a running foundation, and it was important. I had just really had a really long day. It was like the day before. This was March 6, 2023, so I was out celebrating with some friends, having fun. I believe for Cinco de Mayo, and just felt compelled to wake up and do this virtual run. And I kind of kept it chill, but it was like a 31:58. But this was the 5th race of the year. Rest in peace to that black man. And it's a privilege to be able to go out and run and come back home safe. So that's something I always keep in my mind and keep close to my heart. The next race, which would be number 6, was June 10th. So probably about a month later, June 10th, I took, and this was Finish the Ride. It's an organization that also kind of paralleled with cyclists and things like that. And I want to say this was the first race that I went into like a flow state. I usually did not feel connected. The first mile, I would be in like a lot of shock and pain. Like, why am I running this 5K? Why am I doing this? So it's like, it was one of the first races where my body started to sync up and I felt really confident and really good. And it's kind of the same course that I started the year with the Pennies for the Homeless Foundation. But this one was a little bit longer. So that one was shorter and this one was longer. And it was like the very similar course. They slightly altered it. I think a tree fell in a portion of the course. But I took 53rd out of 430 overall. My watch time at this point, this is when I get the Garmin. I ran a 27:56 PB. The bib time was 28:47. So I just got into like under that 9-minute mark, which was like, all right, we're getting there. We're cruising along. This is number 6 out of the year. The next race, back to a high tides race because they put these on every other weekend. I took 25th out of 67th, and high tide again is in Santa Monica. My bib time was 27:57 PB. So at this point, like I'm really like I'm like, all right, I'm cruising. And at this point, like I've upped my mileage. I'm probably at 15 miles per week. I was just using this Run Diet app, like this like beta program. So it's just throwing out these workouts at me, usually 30-minute runs. Longest run might have been like 45 minutes, and fartleks and intervals and things like that, tempos. Like I was still learning at this point. Though I know and understand running, distance running was a whole new factor for me. Going to August 20th, 2023. This is number 8. So we definitely 2 months over half the year. I'm only at race 8 out of 16. This was through TransPerfect, another company that's raising money for their foundation. I believe they like work in the medical field and research. I took 8th out of 25 people. Bib time 27:18. So I almost got under 27 minutes. 8:47 splits. I felt good. This was by the ocean, Dockweiler Beach. I felt strong. It was not that many people, but it was fun. There was a lot of like down in El Segundo. We went to a complimentary brewery. They had a spread, drink tickets. Had really good time. It was a super affordable race, $35, and I'll do it again because it kind of was like turned into a party. understand progressively throughout this process, I got more and more serious about the running versus being more socially guided in like running. Um, the next race would be another high tides race, September 17th, 2023. I placed 12 out of 45, 27:15, 8:45 minimum splits. So not too much faster. It's called Pirates Plunder 5K. And that was 9 out of 16. The next race I was really excited about was in October. October 2nd, 2023 is when I posted this. 10 out of 16 races at this point. I felt like, all right, I got work to do in these next couple of months. It was a Wrigley Field. It was a run for Wrigley. Flew home to Chicago. Super swift trip. Saw a couple of friends and family and had the opportunity to run through my old neighborhood up on the north side. Took 520th out of 4,085 people. Bib time 26:39, 8:35 minimal splits. I was fighting for my life. I thought I was gonna go home and break that sub 25, and it just didn't happen this race. But it was such a beautiful course, and we ran into Wrigley Field around the diamond, their outer edges. I really enjoyed that, and I got to see my mom and the rest of my family when I got to see a lot of friends. Next race would be another high tide. I took 13 out of 62 overall. Bib time 26:36, 8:34 splits. So I was, progressively kind of getting locked in this space. And I think this was 11 out of 16 races. This is when I really started to dial into the fitness aspect and really utilize YouTube and utilize videos and listening to people and learning about like electrolytes and learning about glucose and all of these little like nuances to like running and being in better shape. And that's where things started to really change for me, honestly. The shoes. In the beginning, I was like running in some Zoom flies. By this time, like I'm running in my next percent. So, in a super shoe essentially. The next race, which, was essentially me finally breaking into 25, was this race put on here in Los Angeles, Los Muertos, 5K. And it was honoring, our past loved ones. So I honored my cousin Teresa Campbell and my brother Preston Tip Massey. And that was amazing. That was the one I was looking for. It was a pretty good course, really local to where I live here in Los Angeles, running through Chinatown and Lincoln Heights. I placed 174th out of 2,842 people. 25:23 was the PB. So I felt like, all right, yeah, 12 out of 16 races. We got 4 more at this point of the year. It just felt like it was right on where I wanted to be at that point. It's basically taking me the entire year to get as close to possible as a sub 25. Next race, another high tide. I took 10th out of 127th, and I went down to Long Beach because they go Santa Monica, Long Beach, another place. So I went to a different place this time because I ran so many in Santa Monica. I wanted to see what the competition was like. A lot of these races had good competition when I showed up. So, though I might have been in the top 10, the people ahead of me were running really good times. For this one, I took 10th out of 127, 25:48, 8:18 splits. So, I'm in there. At this point, I'm like, I'm going to go sub 22 this year. Like I'm feeling good about myself. But it was 13 out of 16. The next race, I go home with my girl, Franny, and I run a race in Seattle. Super cold that day. Had to be like under 50s, maybe 35 degrees or something like that. Something wild like that. 37 degrees, cold, dark day in Seattle. We ran around Green Lake. It was a superhero 5K. A lot of kids, a lot of family. Really fun time. Took six out of 54 people. Franny ran this race. She had a good time. I ran 25, 15, 808 splits. So I was really close to breaking that sub 25 mark that I was so desiring. And at this point, I got 2 races left for the year. My next race, you know what it is. It's a high tide, 13th out of 149, December 24th. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. Bib time, yes, 24:23. I broke the 20 sub 25 finally in December with a couple of days left out the year. 7:51 split in my last race. It was a high tide, 16 out of 16. I ran it on December 31st. So I did back-to-back weekends. I was looking through it and I couldn't remember because I posted it on different dates, but I went sub 25 again. It was epic. My weight went from being 35 pounds, really unhealthy diet. Some of those races I went in a little bit of a hangover, a little bit of booze, might have ate too late. Learned a lot about dieting and how to manage that process, especially when you have a race that week and the next morning. Ended the year with probably averaging around 20 miles a week. So I hadn't even broken into like big mileage yet. I want to say just towards the end, I was maybe making it to like 24. I'll drop the Strava in there. I'll drop like my last 3 months of 2023 because at that point I was striving, and it'll give you a better idea what was going on as far as somebody's calling me, as far as where I was in that process, as far as my weekly mileage. But I learned a lot. I pushed myself really far. And I think the next year I was like, do not set a goal of 16. Don't try to chase a number or anything like that. It was a really hard goal to meet towards the end of the year, especially when I got busy, started getting shin splints, had to recognize that I wasn't replacing my shoes and things like that. So I had to start replacing the shoes. And like I said, I got a Garmin watch, and I'm really like learning more about the nutrition. So I started to invest more into it and take a healthier approach going into races. Yeah, thanks for joining me. And yeah, I essentially lost 30 pounds. 'Cause right now I'm 200 pounds. So, and that's, within a year's time, we like almost 2 years now, because that was January to December. So then you add in January now to August, almost September, I shaved down. So I probably ended that year around like 215, 212. Then I lost another 12 pounds, and I'm still shaving weight. And the next episode, we'll talk about the current goals and just kind of the training. Right now, I'm averaging 30 miles a week. So, all right, peace out. It's a long ass video. All right, love, subscribe, like, follow me on Strava, Instagram. Word up, dream more, stay true. Peace.